What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So it turns out there is an unreleased Dreamcast game that's been found on a development kit, and it's kind of interesting what it ended up being. And we're going to talk a bit about that because there's a chance that we could see it released in a bootable format. So kind of neat there. Also, Gears 5 did go gold, and there's an achievement in there that appears to be a bit of a nod towards Reggie from Nintendo. Most likely, it was probably a nod that was created around the time of his retirement. So we're going to talk about all of that and more today, guys. As always, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit the like button. It does help out, and get subscribed if you want to stay up to date on all things gaming and news going on. We do this every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, so check back if you want to keep up to date on everything going on. We're actually going to start today with Minecraft, because Minecraft, of course, was supposed to be getting a 4K super duper texture pack, this big update that was apparently going to make it look really good for 4K devices. Specifically, they seem to nod towards the PC and the Xbox One X, but there's a bit of a problem here. It looks like it's been canceled, or at least development has ceased. Now, they put out a bit of a message on their blog, and they talk about how it was not performing up to their standards across multiple devices. And originally I thought, okay, I guess it's not working out for the Xbox One X, but I wonder if they're talking more about things like cell phones, because of course Minecraft is on a ton of devices, and they name devices. They don't say, oh, it wasn't working out for us on the Xbox One X, it just didn't happen. I think PC would have been no problem, obviously, not an issue there, and I feel like the Xbox One X wouldn't have been a problem either, so I'm thinking more along the lines of phones maybe. But yeah, they've ceased development on it, which is kind of a shame because it's been in the works at least for 2 years, so I'll be curious if more information comes out about what actually happened there. Oh, and we talked about Need for Speed a couple times now leading into Gamescom. It does look like they're going to show it off at Gamescom, but it also looks like EA is going to announce it just ahead of it. It seems to be getting announced tomorrow on Wednesday. They put up this countdown timer that is still active now on their website, so I'm not really sure what they're going to show off here. It just says NFS. I hope it's not just called Need for Speed. I hope it actually has a name to it, because that would just continue to get more and more confusing around the Need for Speed franchise. But come on, let's just get a remake of an older one. Let's get Underground 2 back, Underground 3 or Carbon. Probably not. It'll probably be a games as a service style game, and it'll probably be like Need for Speed. I don't know. What did we say it was? Need for Speed Heat? We'll see. But yeah, tomorrow, look out for that. It also looks like Next Level Games is hiring, and that, I assume, means that they are moving on to their next project. This is the tweet that they put out, where they appear to be looking for gameplay programmer, tools programmer, and technical artist. Now, Next Level Games is hopefully going to be working on, I would like to see anyway, Mario Strikers, bring that franchise back, but it could also be a Punch-Out maybe, or it could just be them helping another studio with development of something, but I'm hoping it's for their next game, which is another Mario Strikers. But with my luck, it'll probably be something else completely. I would like to see them go back to the roots to the GameCube version, not do something along the lines of the Wii version. But hey, let me know what you want to see Next Level Games do, because it does seem like they are already getting ready for their next project. We also saw Alien Isolation, of course, revealed in like the sizzle reel kind of thing at E3, and it was supposed to be coming out, well, this year at some point, towards the end, of course. It looks like it's been rated now by the ESRB, and unfortunately they weren't able to get the E for Everyone rating. Now, obviously it's going to be mature rated, but what the ESRB rating tells us is that it's probably coming out soon. Like, usually you get something rated and it's almost ready to go. Of course, we saw A Hat in Time get rated. That could show up in like an Indies presentation from Nintendo, or they could just drop it on Twitter and say, hey guys, A Hat in Time's ready. Alien Isolation will probably get the same treatment. You know, it's coming out this date. It could be an October release, kind of in the Halloween style, you know, thing for the month, because it's a scary horror style game. Not surprising it's coming to the Switch necessarily, because it was on like the 360. I believe it had 2 discs there, so it was like 8 gigabytes, but not surprising that the Switch would be able to handle it. It was just more surprising that they were even porting it over. I thought most people had already played or just forgotten about the game, but hey, look out for it. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's talk about this Unreleased, this found Dreamcast game. Exciting stuff whenever these kind of things happen in the retro world, right? It'll just randomly be like, oh yeah, this game that we thought was a myth or just disappeared or we heard about but it was canceled, it exists and we can get it. And that's what appears to have happened over on Obscure Gamers forum, where someone posted that they had found it on a dev kit, one of the Katana. That's what they call the dev kit for the Dreamcast. Great name, by the way, for a dev kit. But what's interesting about this is they found it, and it's for Microsoft Combat Flight Simulator. In fact, it seems to have about 1.5 gigabytes of data, and they managed to back up and clone the drive, and now they're trying to figure out if it can be bootable, as in can we boot this image onto the Dreamcast and see how much work was done. Now, this Combat Flight Simulator from Microsoft, there's been so many of them, but at the time, they were trying to put it out on consoles and everything. It was even moved to the original Xbox, but then canceled. What's odd about this one is it was originally slated for 1999, and Konami was apparently supposed to publish it, but we know what happened with the Dreamcast, and we know that a lot of the games from Sega even moved over to the original Xbox. That's why some people look at the original Xbox as kind of a Dreamcast successor, so that it was kind of always in the market after that. Of course, we also know that the Dreamcast ran Windows CE, so yeah, it was all kind of intertwined. But to have thought about Microsoft Combat Flight Simulator on the Dreamcast is just kind of cool. Now, the real question is, are they going to be able to get it to be bootable? And that is a big question. I can tell you now, though, people are really excited around this find. It's not every day, right, that you find something like this on just a random dev kit and then are able to retrieve the files. And what makes this really exciting is, of course, the Dreamcast, most of them anyway, you can just burn the disc. So if this image comes out public, which they've already stated that they would like it to be public after it's bootable and they've had a chance to look through it, you might be able to download a game that was originally unreleased, and it was supposed to come out in 1999, got moved to the Xbox, canceled, and then you can burn it to a disc and try it on the Dreamcast. It'll probably be broken and not even finished, but we've seen fans take something like even Star Fox 2, for example, unreleased, canceled, and make it fully playable. So you never know. But exciting stuff for the retro community, especially everyone around the Dreamcast still, because that system still lives on. It wasn't even around that long, but people love that system so much, they're still rolling along with it, so it's pretty cool. Next up, let's talk about another find in the retro game community that is really, really cool to see, because we don't see it that often, and when you do, it's like looking at something like the holy grail almost for a lot of collectors, and that's the Nintendo World Championship Edition cart. The gray cart specifically. I know there's a gold cart also, but the gray cart for the original Nintendo. Now, back in the early 90s, Nintendo ran a bunch of big tournaments and people would fly out and everything, and it was a big deal. It's Nintendo World Championships, and they used a special cartridge that you're seeing here. And if you find one of these in the wild now, which there's not even that many of them, you're going to get a nice little payday. And in this case, it was a payday of $13,000 after a person walked into a retail store, a retro game store in Seattle called Pink Gorilla Games with a sack full of games, a bunch of NES games apparently, and at the bottom of that was a gray cartridge for Nintendo World Championships, and Cody, who's a co-owner there, actually wrote them a check, it sounded like anyway, a check I would assume, for $13,000, after which they were able to sell it like right away. So it wasn't even that difficult to sell, and I can understand that, as there are a lot of people who look to add this to their collection, and we've seen now several different retro games start to pop up that are worth a lot of money, and big-time collectors are starting to put down quite a bit of money around these things all at once, and we're seeing a lot of stories really start to pop up. There was one about an unopened, I believe, Kid Icarus game that went for thousands and thousands of dollars, and if I had to take a guess, this one probably went for upwards, I would say, about $20,000 for this. So, I mean, you're in the business making money. I think they were very fair offering them $13,000 when, let's be honest, the customer themselves said they didn't even expect to get that much. They probably could have given them a lot less and they would have been super happy about it. But, I mean, they gave them a fair price. So make sure you check out Pink Gorilla Games, because at least you know they're not going to hit you like GameStop will and give you $2 for something like that. But cool find. Again, Seattle seems to be the place to go for retro games, so maybe I have to make it over there at least one time to check things out. Next up, let's talk about Falcom and the Nintendo Switch. Now, of course, Falcom has been kind of iffy with the Switch. They were pretty happy with the Vita and the PlayStation as kind of their combination, so like PS4 and Vita, or even PS3, I guess, and Vita. It was, obviously a little bit of crossover there, but they were very happy with the system handheld combination from Sony. But the Vita's gone now, and the Switch seems to be taking its place in a lot of people's eyes, specifically with Nintendo not playing any kind of censorship game or anything like that, and just welcoming pretty much all Japanese developers onto the system without too much issue or pushback about any of their games, anything like that. Something we've seen, of course, with Sony. And Falcom appears to be looking more and more at the Switch. And they did put Ys 8 on there, but it sounded like Nice really wanted that on there. It sounded like there was a lot of back and forth, but now it looks like Falcom is at least taking the Switch a bit more seriously. This was during an interview with the president of Falcom and DualShockers, where they said, "We have talks in progress with multiple publishers regarding possible Switch games, but I can't tell you anything precise yet or if it will happen or not." So I will say this, Falcom is looking at the Switch more seriously. The problem I think they're running into is I think Nice America is struggling right now. There have been reports about them not being able to make payroll at times, and it sounds like they are kind of skating by, at least right now anyway, and there have even been concerns that they might not be around for much longer. I think Falcom is looking towards places like publishers like Xseed, for example, to help them out and get some of these games localized and brought west. But I think they are really looking at the Switch, because I feel like Ys 8, from a lot of reports and everything, it actually did pretty well on the Switch. And of course, we had issues before. Nice America did struggle a bit with that localization, and they've even had to push back Trails Cold Steel 3. They pushed that one back to October. So it was originally supposed to come out in September. Now it's moving to October. And I think they're looking for maybe a more stable publisher, more than likely. So they'll split the workload like they have in the past, but maybe they'll lean more on Xseed. One thing's for sure here, though. They're looking at the Switch and they're realizing the install size is getting up there, and they don't have their Vita anymore, so most likely you're probably going to see more and more announcements from Falcom. Now, the real question is going to be, are they going to be moving over games like Trails of Cold Steel? Are they going to go back and get older Ys games? There's a lot of things they can do, even more obscure games that are in their library, but we'll see what happens. I would say probably going into next year, we'll see more announcements from Falcom. Who knows? They could even pop up in like another Direct, maybe Direct in Japan, just showing that a lot of stuff's coming over. And then we got to figure out how they localize it, most likely through Xseed, or maybe Nice America really makes a comeback and they start moving stuff over. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Gears 5, as it has now gone gold ahead of its September release, as you would hope that it did. And we got to look at the achievement list. And what was really funny about this is a lot of people realized this when they put the list out there, tons of achievements, by the way, but when they put the list out there, a lot of people realized that there was one that seemed to be giving a bit of a nod to Reggie. In fact, Reggie even tweeted it out saying, "I hope the team shows off the 'My Body is Ready' achievement. Nice tip of the hat, my friend." And that's Xbox P3, who is Phil Spencer, who even replied to that tweet saying, "Respect paid where respect is due." And I assume this was maybe something that was getting put together earlier this year, maybe even around the time of his retirement. And what that means, that achievement, is that you finished boot camp. And now we all know, of course, that meme comes from when he was working and on stage with Wii Fit and everything, and it's always stuck with him, and he's always leaned into it, which is a reason the fans really like Reggie. And he's still been pretty active on Twitter. He's been talking about all different things in the gaming space as well, attending several events, and honestly, it looks like he's just enjoying retirement, which is great. And to have him kind of, I guess, put in there as a nice little nod tribute towards Reggie is a good look from, I would say anyway, from the Gears team, from Phil Spencer. I am curious if we'll see anything like that, similar to that, from like Nintendo and any of their games. I think if there is ever a time, there's ever a time where miraculously Mother 3 does get brought over, like it's localized and re-released, or they do a remake or something crazy, years down the line or something, I hope there is some sort of reference towards the struggle that a lot of the fans went through to try to get done, and then the struggle that Reggie went through trying to answer as to why it's not coming over. But either way, good look from Microsoft, and look out for Gears 5 next month. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one's from the Filthiest Casual, saying, "I will never trust any dock not made from Nintendo." And that is an uphill climb for any company that wants to make a third-party dock. You could have a dock that technically is safer than Nintendo's own docks, with a ton of research development and work put into it, but most people who own a Switch are not going to trust their Switch on a third-party dock after all the stuff that happened early on. It basically is, actually. Companies that didn't do a great job early on, ruining it for companies that have spent time working with it. I think Genki actually has something here with their covert dock. but no, I mean, how many people really want to plug it in and possibly fry their Switch? Even if it is, like I said, very reliable and won't do any damage to it, most people are still going to be concerned. So it's something that I think they'll have to work to break through on, and I'll be curious if they ever can. Maybe next generation with the next Switch. Some of these companies have had enough work done with it. It's hard to say, though, but that is something. Some people don't even want to plug different chargers into the bottom of their Switch. It's hard enough to convince them that your brand new third-party dock is safe. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, the like button really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's the unreleased Dreamcast game. What do you think about a Microsoft flight combat simulator possibly getting put out there publicly for you to download and burn to a disk and try on your Dreamcast game that was canceled and then possibly brought back, which is pretty cool to see that. And also let me know what you think about Gears 5 and its kind of nod towards Reggie. Do you think more games, specifically with Nintendo, should do something like that? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.